All right, it's about time for some Italian wine. I mean, you kidding me? Barolo, Barbaresco, Brunello. Hey, they all start with B's. Hey, we've got two great producers here. And like I said, we had the Dr. Christian Madeleine, and he's the export director for both wineries. You see Schiopetto and Friuli and Sandrone Winery in the Piedmont have been working together for some time, and they both have similar past, similar interests. Both are first-generation producers. Both are very passionate about their work, and both are considered at the top level of quality for the region that they represent. All right, well, first up, the Pinot Grigio from Collio. Nice amount of minerality shown here on the nose. Some minty green herb type nuance also to that pear and apple-like fruit. 100% stainless steel. They want to really express the varietals themselves in the wines, but long contact on the lees, 6 months, so that gives you some richness on the palate there. Nice weight and a strong sense of place here with some tongue-tingling acidity shown on the finish. 30,000 bottles produced, so one of the larger production wines for Schiopetto Winery. Excellent Pinot Grigio, though. And next up, we had a Blanc de Rossis. This wine is a blend, white from the flowers, Tokai. It's Tokai Pinot Grigio, Sauvignon Blanc, Malvasia, and Ribolla Gialla, the grape that sounds like a virus. This is from the Collio Orientale region, and well, it's from two different regions. They blend it. That's why they have to call it Venezia Giulia, the IGT. All right, well, this is a very unique blend, really unique bouquet of aromas too here. Fresh flowers, stone-like minerality, roasted grain, peach, pear, tangerine, citrus fruits. Very intriguing array of flavors on the tongue there, also with some tingly acidity showing up on the finish. A really excellent bottle of white wine. I mean, all these wines I found excellent from this winery. I don't know, do I even need to review the rest of them? They're all excellent. All right, next up the Fruilano, which is a grape that used to be called Tokai Fruilano, but the Tokai term can no longer be used in Alsace or Italy. It is now claimed the sole proprietor, Hungary. All right, this is one of those wineries trademark wines. They've been working with this grape varietal since 1965. They feel that this is a varietal you can age for 20 years in a great vintage, and the vineyards are 40 years old. A fine bouquet of melon and peach-like fruit with that whetstone minerality, sweet tart-like kind of nuance to the nose, and some herbal notes here as well, really complex. Nice weight on the palate with that sweet tart fruit shown through there, and a strong sense of minerality and that touch of herbaceousness also showing on the finish. But lots of fruit here to match. Excellent stuff as well. All right, the Pinot Bianco was next. And this wine had this light flinty kind of smoky nuance to the nose. That lemon drop candy fruit and green apple. Pretty complex. The terroir again showing through there. Nice freshness and concentration on the palate. A lovely creamy texture to this wine with a good deal of fruit and nicely balanced acidity. That flinty note showing through the finish there. Excellent juice. That was probably my favorite of all of the whites. The Sauvignon, which is Sauvignon Blanc. They just call it Sauvignon for some reason. This is from 4 plant parcels, and they're planted from the... Well, they have 4 parcels planted with a clone from the Sancerre region, and then they have some indigenous clones from Friuli in the vineyard. So the mix of those two kind of creates a little more complexity in this wine. Very strong bouquet, you know, that fresh herb and that little fresh baled hay nuance that you get from Sauvignon Blanc, and a strong musky kind of character to that grapefruit and lemon citrus. Very intense bouquet, though. Bright and fresh on the tongue there with a zesty finish and a note of sea salt showing. Leaves the tongue salivating for food. Really nice, varietally correct Sauvignon Blanc. All right, next up, their Sandrone Winery, the Dolcetto from them, and life is too short to drink Dolcetto. Well, you know, we actually had a 96 vintage Dolcetto from Sandrone in one of our brown bags. The wine was still fabulous. I couldn't believe how fresh it was. It did not seem like it was even 5 years old, but Sandrone makes great wines. You know, this is a first generation, so it's not like he's been doing it, you know, his family's been doing it for 100 years, but this guy has got a passion and a know-how, and even his Dolcetto is worthy of being in my store. But, you know, this wine still, you know, for the money, I would much rather drink Barbera. All right, the Barbera here had lots of fresh black truffle, dark cherry fruit, very forward and seductive, notes of cocoa and tobacco spice there shown as well, big and fruity on the tongue with that cherry fruit showing, a very clean style of Barbera with that fresh black earth and truffle, and a nice acidity, one of the hallmarks of Barbera. Very good stuff. All right, the Nebbiolo di Alba, And, you know, this wine is from a single vineyard, Valmaggiore, and it's not a cru, but, you know, they treat it like one. It's from the Roero region in a classic Nebbiolo area. But, you know, this wine had this weird aroma of, like, grapefruit. And Christian was saying how this was typical of this vintage, and it's something that comes out in difficult years sometimes. 2008, I guess they had some, you know, it wasn't a great vintage like 06 and 07, but, you know, had some exotic spice once you got past that. And, you know, on the palate, you know, really nicely balanced and everything. But, man, if you gave me this wine in a blind tasting, I might guess it was a white wine as opposed to a red wine. All right, next up, the Barolo La Vigne. This is, you know, what I'm going to Sandrone for, man, Barolo. Okay, you can have the Nebbiolo, you can have the Barbera and the Dolcetto, and I think, you know, Luciano figured that out. He's no longer going to be making Dolcetto and Barbera in a short period of time. He's just going to be making Barolo. Bravo. Okay, La Vigne, this is one of his two crews. The Canubi Boschus is his other crew, and the La Vigne, an outstanding wine, you know, really lovely classic Barolo, pretty cherry, red licorice spice, a touch of that tar, or fresh herbs, truffles, very expansive bouquet here with many layers. This 2007 vintage, you know, even though it needs a bit of time to open up, fairly open on the nose, and really has this unique kind of minty and eucalyptusy note to it also. Really lovely velvety texture on the tongue. You know, a lot of big tannin here showing, but you can see just very refined with layers of that red berry fruit, exotic spices, and fine tannins, you know, drying your mouth at the finish. But this is young Barolo, folks. It does take a wine for this. This wine's not even released yet to these wines. So it takes a while for these wines to come around after they've been released. This one, well, in Magnum format, you probably want to keep it another 10 years. All right, well, that's what we had to drink from the folks from Sandrone. Up next, we've got Erica with some things from the Gems portfolio.